don't do nothing but tear down a black man. Look at it. He's nothing given. You've never seen 50 give nobody no flowers, no respect. He just play on people downfall. Diddy, Irv Gotti, Ja Rule. Now Big Meech. You've never seen 50 say nothing positive.
Making that G-Unit film studio out there in Louisiana where that cheapest land at. You thought you was gonna be able to do it. You thought you was gonna be able to get them loans, and it ain't. What's wrong? What's taking so long? 50, who own your masters? Who own your masters? I buy your masters. You better shut up.
Big Meech showing up with Rick Ross, publicly right after he gets out.
Right.
And I mean, considering the history between 50 Cent and Ross, and of course 50's whole connection to the BMF story with his show, well, you can see why this alliance would cause a bit of a stir.
Yeah, absolutely. So jumping right into it, this account we've got lays out some pretty direct attacks going both ways. Like, on the one hand, you've got Big Meech and Rick Ross seemingly going after 50 Cent's finances, especially his whole film studio thing. And then you've got 50 firing back, doubling down on his claims that Big Meech snitched, even hinting at a documentary with Tammy Cowens that he says is going to, expose even more.
Right.
It's messy. It's a whole thing.
It really is. So let's start with Big Meech and Rick Ross, just to get their side of it, at least how it comes across in this account. Big Meech really goes for it,
Yeah.
Like, he questions how 50's film studio in Louisiana is going, even implying that with the cheaper land there, things should be moving faster. And then he throws in these jabs, like, what's taking so long? It feels very intentional, like he's trying to push 50's buttons.
Yeah, and it gets pretty personal, right? The account even says Big Meech brings up the whole ownership of 50 Cent's master recordings, even going so far as to suggest he might be interested in buying them. Which is a huge blow, you know? Because it's like, that's your control, your creative output, your income as an artist. You can see why that would hit a nerve.
Yeah, absolutely. And then Rick Ross, from what we understand, kind of jumps in and piles on. He apparently suggests that 50 Cent's credit is so bad he can't even get loans for this studio project. And then the threat to buy 50's masters if he doesn't quiet down. I mean, it's super aggressive, putting it all out there like that. But what's interesting, though, is that in some parts of this account, Big Meech's tone actually shifts a bit. It's not all just straight up hostility.
That's true. There's a point where he actually acknowledges that 50 Cent helped him make $5 million. And he even kind of throws out this question, how much has 50 himself made? It's almost like a challenge, but also a little bit of respect mixed in there. And the account also points out that Big Meech brings up 50 being there for his father, more than some people his father had actually helped out. It just adds this unexpected layer to the whole thing. It's not quite as black and white as it might seem at first glance.
Totally. So now let's flip it, right? Let's see how 50 responded to all of this, based on the info we have. And, no surprise, he doesn't just sit there and take it.
Right.
Right away, he's talking about dropping receipts.
Right.
Exposing who's really struggling financially. So right there, he's already setting up his side of the story.
And part of his side involves some pretty serious accusations. The account details this claim from 50 Cent that 1090 Jake, he's the guy who does those deep dive interviews and investigations in the hip hop world. 1090 Jake supposedly found documents proving that Big Meech cooperated with the authorities.
Wow.
I mean, that is a big deal. That's a heavy accusation to make, especially in that world.
It is, yeah. And then on top of that, 50's planning this whole documentary with Tammy Cowens, which is where it gets really interesting. Because as you know, she's the one who has the rights to Big Meech's life story.
Right.
She's in a really unique position to tell that story and to tell it her way.
Yeah, and this isn't totally out of the blue, is it? I mean, the account reminds us that 50 and Tammy Cowens, they've worked together before.
Right.
They were the ones who originally teamed up to bring the whole Black Mafia family thing to TV, so there's already a relationship there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Tammy Cowens was the one who first partnered with 50 to bring BMF to the screen.
Yeah.
Which, that show became pretty huge. But then things changed, didn't they?
Yeah.
The account highlights that 50 eventually decided to axe the series. And he specifically cited the behavior of Big Meech and his son, Lil Meech.
Yeah. And speaking of Lil Meech, his part in all of this is pretty significant too. The account goes into some detail about it. He was the star of 50's BMF show, and from what we understand, he made a lot of money from it. Over $5 million, according to the information.
Wow.
So you'd think, there'd be some loyalty there.
You'd think. But the thing is, the account goes on to say that Lil Meech pretty much blew all that money on extravagant stuff. No savings, no investments, and it even mentions Tony Yao calling him out publicly for it. which really highlights this perception that Lil Meech wasn't exactly managing his money well. But then it gets even more complicated because Lil Meech tries to kind of smooth things over.
Right. The account mentions him reaching out to 50 Cent directly, through DMs. He tries to explain that the whole Rick Ross collaboration was just him trying to help his dad out financially until the next season of the show. And it even says he sent this emotional message about how loyal he is, how he doesn't see 50 as an enemy. It sounds like he was in a really tough spot trying to keep everyone happy.
Yeah. But then the account shows how 50 Cent reacted publicly, and it wasn't exactly sympathetic, was it? He posts the DM with a caption like, "What next season?" Basically announcing that the show's done, it was cold, it was very clear. That was it for them working together. And then the account goes on to point out how Lil Meech and Big Meech kind of shift allegiances. They start hanging out with 50's rivals like Floyd Mayweather and posting stuff on social media that seems like it's aimed directly at 50.
Like that picture with Floyd Mayweather where the caption's all about real power.
Oh yeah, that one.
The account highlights that as being a clear dig at 50's power show, which, yeah, you can see why he'd take that personally. It definitely looks like things have flipped completely. And so all of this kind of leads back to this underlying feeling of betrayal that seems to be a big part of what's driving 50, at least according to this account.
Yeah, definitely. Like, from 50's perspective, as it's presented here, he feels really let down. He was there for Big Meech's family, for Lil Meech, while Big Meech was locked up, even helping out financially. And then to see Big Meech out here, honestly clowning him online, you can understand how that would sting.
Yeah, for sure. The account really emphasizes 50's claims that he was like a mentor to Lil Meech. He set him up with acting coaches, helped him stay sober, gave him financial support. It paints this picture of 50 really investing in Lil Meech's future.
And then contrast that with the accusations that Big Meech was giving Lil Meech bad advice, about spending habits and drug use. The account even mentions this incident on set where Lil Meech apparently showed up high and ended up getting sick. It's pretty serious stuff.
Yeah.
And then there's that detail about Big Meech supposedly having those little nitrous oxide cartridges, the whippets, in his truck. Just adds another layer to this narrative that Big Meech was a negative influence.
Yeah, it's a lot. So circling it back to the financial side of things, the account reiterates what Rick Ross has been saying about 50 Cent being broke, not being able to get loans, and that whole threat to buy his masters. Like, those claims are front and center in this whole public feud.
Right. But it also shows how 50 reacts to it, and he's super dismissive. Like, he questions how relevant Big Meech even is anymore, and basically acts like this whole thing is small potatoes in the grand scheme of things. Like, he's trying to downplay it.
Mm-hmm. But then he goes and announces this new true crime documentary series where he's going after everyone who's crossed him, including Big Meech and Rick Ross.
Yeah, that's not exactly downplaying it, is it?
It doesn't sound like someone who's just brushing it off. It sounds like he's coming back with a vengeance.
For sure. And the account also points out that Lil Meech has gone quiet, which could mean he's trying to stay out of it. But Big Meech is apparently furious about what 50's doing. And this is where the whole legal side of things comes in, right? Like, the rights to the BMF franchise. The account mentions that legal experts have said Rick Ross probably can't just go and make his own BMF show without 50's permission because of who owns the intellectual property. So wrapping up this deep dive, it seems like the main issues here are accusations about money, feelings of betrayal, and these competing versions of the Black Mafia family story. It's clearly super personal, and it goes way back.
Yeah. And what's wild is, according to this account, it's far from over. Like, 50's documentary could bring even more stuff to light and really escalate things further, which kind of begs the question, based on what we've discussed, whose side are you on, and where do you think this is all headed?
Good question.
It really makes you think about how business and personal loyalties can get tangled up, especially in industries like music and entertainment where the stakes are so high. And as we've seen, those dynamics can shift in an instant. It's worth asking yourself, what are these guys really after? What do they want to achieve? And what will all of this mean for their careers and legacies in the long run? That's something to ponder, for sure.